And yeah, let's get right into this. So when we study the blessing ends la'asok b'divrei Torah, though you're muted, you can hear yourself. So if you wish to join with me, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So the question I'm obviously posing here is, why is Nissan the first month of the Jewish year? And the oddity here is that we have a special text study, which a special Torah text, Exodus 12. So this is an example when you want to have more than one Torah. So if you're at Shul tomorrow morning, it's not a terrible one because we're just finishing the book of Exodus. But if you were waiting in one Torah scroll, I should go this way, you'd be rolling back to Exodus 12, which we kind of wonder what's that about. This is actually a 3-timer. We read Exodus 12 3 times. So one time is during the regular Torah cycle, and I looked it up. I think if I got this right, it was February 1st. So it wasn't terrifically long ago that we already read this text. On the first day of Pesach, of Passover, we read this text, and on this coming Shabbat, as an extra portion. So again, that's why this coming Shabbat, we would have ideally 2 Torah scrolls pre-rolled. So we are just ready to go and get right into it. This is actually part of a cycle of Torah reading. And so what I want to do is use, of course, my Jewish learning, because like, why wouldn't we? And so here are, I liked the title of 3 special Shabbats to get you in the mood for Passover. So of course, have to attribute Michelle Alper, and thank you, Michelle. I slightly condensed these, but we have, and again, Mara, if any questions or whatever comes up, please just let me know. So in this special cycle, just real quick, last week we read Numbers 19, 1-22, dealing with the red heifer, whose ashes were combined with water to ritually purify anyone who had been in contact with a dead person. Like, why are we doing that, you might ask? Because only people who are pure could eat from the Passover sacrifice. We're getting to it. It's a connection to the holiday of Passover that's coming. In ancient times, a public announcement reminded anyone who had become impure to purify themselves before making the Passover pilgrimage to Jerusalem. So we have here's a getting ready for Passover, get in the mood. It might be you're not really looking for the red heifer, but it might be that you're starting to see, what your local grocery store is shelving there in terms of, was it last year's matzot or is it this year's? This is what we're on now, and I'm just placing it here to show you that we're in this cycle. So it either occurs on the Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh or on Rosh Chodesh. That is a celebration of the new month. We're going to look at it more. The Maftir reading, this special extra reading, is Exodus 12, as I said, and this is what we're going to study, so we're not talking about it yet. And finally, Shabbat HaGadol next week, when we get into just panic mode, in terms of, hey, we got to get ready for Passover and be ready to do all of the things we do for Passover. So Shabbat immediately before Passover, as the Israelites were preparing to leave Egypt, God commanded them to select a lamb that would serve as a Passover sacrifice. This mitzvah or commandment required the Israelites to actively participate in the redemption from Egypt. The name Shabbat HaGadol literally comes from a verse in the Haftarah. So I didn't talk about the Haftarah for the others, but in Malachi, lo, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before the coming of the awesome, fearful day of the Lord, which alludes to a messianic future. The past redemption of Passover is tied to future messianic redemption. So again, we're just in this cycle, right, of getting ready for Passover in every way that we can. So there are reminders through the Torah, through the Haftarah, and so forth. And so as we look at this, we want to think about, okay, So what's the scene here? Because we're going to look at chapter 12, but I think it's really important to look at chapter 11. And it ends with God's announcement to Moses of the 10th and final plague. And then there's a break. The announcer comes on, so to speak, right? There's an interruption, an intermission, and we get all kinds of directions. So, if we think about, kind of building the tension of the plagues and then leaving Egypt, all of a sudden, kind of stop, wait, here's some things you got to prepare, as well as, the actual preparations for that final night, which is what Exodus 12 largely does. But it starts broader and then it gets narrower. So that's what we're really going to look at. So on the one hand, unfortunately for you, I am going to read a whole mess of text here because I want you to hear what all of 1 through 20 is. So it's not that long, it's 20 verses. But the one that we're really going to focus on is one verse. So we'll have the Hebrew there too, but I just did quick English, all from Sparia, by the way. This second verse, this month shall mark for you, that's what we're going to focus on. So as we are looking at, so what is this maftir, this special portion? Again, forgive me, you'll hear my voice when questions can come through Mara, but we are going to focus on that second verse. Adonai said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall mark for you the beginning of the month. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. Speak to the community leadership of Israel and say that on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household. But if the household is too small for a lamb, let it share one with a neighbor who dwells nearby in proportion to the number of persons. You shall contribute for the land according to what each household will eat. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a yearling male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep watch over until the 14th day of this month, and all the assembled congregation of the Israelites shall slaughter it at twilight. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they are to eat it. They shall eat the flesh that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or cooked in any way with water, but roasted, head, legs, and entrails over the fire. You shall not leave any of it over until the morning. If any of it is left until morning, you shall burn it. I always like that verse because I always dislike leftovers. This is how you shall eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is Passover offering to Adonai. For that night I will go through the land of Egypt and strike down every male firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human and beast, and I will mete out punishments to all the gods of Egypt, I, Adonai. And the blood on the houses where you are staying shall be a sign for you. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, so that no plague will destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be to you one of remembrance. You shall celebrate it as a festival to Adonai throughout the ages. You shall celebrate it as an institution for all time. Which is interesting, right? We have the verse we're going to study, and we have this too, right? Where, okay, here are the final directions on the final night. There's a lot happening. You have to think about a lot of stuff. And yet, you shall celebrate as a festival to Adonai throughout the ages is really no longer talking to them, right? It's talking to the future generations more. Obviously, you have to tell your immediate next generation so that there can be future generations, but it's a little bit back and forth in terms of, okay, immediacy and more long-term. To finish the text, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the very first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats leavened bread from the first day, the seventh day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. You shall celebrate a sacred occasion on the first day and a sacred occasion on the seventh day. No work at all shall be done on them, only what every person is to eat, that alone may be prepared for you. You shall observe a feast of unleavened bread, for on this very day I brought your ranks out of the land of Egypt. You shall observe this day throughout the ages as an institution for all time. The first month, from the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. Leaven shall be found in your houses for 7 days, for whoever eats it, what is leavened, that person, whether stranger or citizen of the country, shall be cut off from the community of Israel. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your settlements you shall eat unleavened bread. So There's the 20 verses. So if you're at shul tomorrow, there are your extra 20 verses. But what I want to really look at is this single verse. So, but I felt like you needed to know kind of, well, and what's coming next? Okay, so here we are. This is our verse, right? HaChodesh hazeh lachem, Rosh Chodeshim, Rishon hu lachem, l'chodshei hashana. This month shall be for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. And I wanted to give you the alternate translation right there, right? And you can play with this also in the chat, which is really interesting, right? You don't have to have a lot of Hebrew to get this, right? It's very repetitive, this whole thing, right? You have something about the word Chodesh 3 times in there, right? You have Rosh, which we know from Rosh Hashanah, head or first, right? We have Rishon there too, which is first. Like, what is going on here? So this month shall be for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. Okay, I can see that being a kosher translation. And yet there's some more intrigue if we say this month shall be for you the beginning of the months. From now on, these months will be yours, lachem. These months will be yours. So the question I want to bring forward is, well, what does it mean that these months will be yours? So if you want to think about that for a second and maybe write something in the chat. There's so much chat. It's so fabulous. Okay, yeah, right. I'm just looking at here, right? So Rob is saying that we're not free people unless we use our own calendars. Thank you for that. I said it clearly. I think you might have said it more clearly than I did, but thank you. Right. And anything else in terms of, what does it mean, right? Fresh start. Appreciate that. Just looking for a minute at these. Anyone else have a thought about this, right? Whether between the 2 different translations, right? Where does it from now on fit into the translation? Right, that's a good question of how do they, right, from now on. So here we're going to say Rishon hu lachem l'chodshei hashana, right? They're again translating for, it's not directly, right? We don't have like the word achshav right there, but it's a new beginning. So if it's a new beginning, that from now on, Rishon hu lachem, right? It's going to be new in that way. It's sort of from now on and so forth. So I'm just going to check the chat real quick again. Yeah. So okay. So we got a book suggestion. I love Dara Horn. Okay, so sorry, I'm not going to be able to do all that at the same time. So Mara's going to be looking at this. Okay, there's a lot here. We're going to stay on this slide for a while. And I have to remember to save the chat or get Mara to do that for me so I can see everything that everyone's written. So Rabbeinu Bachya in the 14th century says like lachem, right, implies that, and I'll just circle that here with my cursor, that it's for every Israelite, that fixing the new moon is a command for every Israelite, and yet God doesn't say to all the Israelites, right? We don't hear in all of that, and even in the first verse that I'd share, right, it doesn't say B'nai Yisrael. So they seem to be taking from that, actually, lachem, while it's for all the Israelites, it's not them who are going to, as it were, fix it or determine it. And that's where they get to the elders of the people or a court of experts or something, not each individual Jew, which we know if we all fix the calendar, boy, we could be, having a lot of problems with that. FedEx one day, because your one day and my one day might be different days. But this is where it's addressed to Moses and Aaron in their capacity as the experts, right? So Bach is saying, like, it's to the likes of you, to the trained expert. A different idea of lachem is from Da'at Zekanim, 12th, 13th century, is to be sanctified by you on each occasion, right? So the members of the high court, again, are the ones who are doing it, but it even says this. So when we talk about these days power and the limits or not of it, the interpretation says If the members of the High Court deem it in the national interest, they have the authority to postpone the new moon for an extra day. That's pretty wild that you can postpone the new moon. Even Mara's surprised by that. The editor in Sfaria writes, they do not have the authority to advance it one day. So you can't kind of jump at it. Fascinating, right? Of how much control. By the way, if you ever read The Blessing on the Moon, it's really a powerful midrash, a Holocaust midrash. So how much control do we have over the moon, right? It also is Sephorno, 16th century, is the idea that from now on, these months will be yours, right? So as was said, right, in the chat, the little bit of the chat I actually got to enjoy, I will enjoy it more later. This is by way of contrast to the years when you were enslaved and you had no control over your time whatsoever, right? So that probably for us is really meaningful because we're trying to get at the why is Nissan the first month, right? And we'll just remind ourselves that, you know, we're all there on Rosh Hashanah, right? That we consider the first month because it's the year, it's when we turn to 5786 this coming year, right? We get the new date, right? All of that is happening. What do you mean it says on the seventh day, the first day of the month? What? The seventh day? Why does that make any sense? So here we have that this is actually the first month, and we're really trying to figure this out. If we jump ahead, we know that in the Talmud, there are 4 new years that judge different things. We're going to get to that a little bit. But in the Torah itself, here we have the beginning of the month. So one idea of Or Chaim is from the 18th century of why is both the word Rosh here and Rishon here. We even see Rosh within Rishon, right? Rishon means first, or here they're translating beginning, right? No, sorry, they're translating first. But we have that's very repetitive in Torah, which we often say is not repetitive, which means darsheni, right? Tell me, let's dig in, tell me more, right? So Or Chaim is saying, you know, this is particularly important. It's the choicest of the month, and I love that word because I don't know about you, but in modern parlance, I don't say something is the choicest. I guess if I weren't a vegetarian, I could say it's the choicest cut of meat, but I am. So the choicest cut of tofu just doesn't work for anyone. But anyway, so they use it based on a text from Exodus 30:23, or they refer to it, right? Or Chaim, I should say, refers to it. So this is actually about the choicest of spices. And it says, bisamim rosh, and it goes on, right? So take the take choice spices, and then it talks about myrrh and cinnamon and other things, right? But that's why they're thinking, okay, you could use this rosh as not head of or first or new, but choice. And I think to me that's kind of interesting to take it in that light. And then this idea of Rishon is interesting in terms of, you know, we are counting the new year, like I just said, in Tishrei, right? In the 7th month, we're saying, oh, it turned to 5785 last year, right? But now it's to show that this first month of the first month of our calculation of the year is showing how important Nissan is to the Jewish people, right? That it is a symbol of the month, like we said, in which we attained our freedom as a nation. And it's interesting because as Or Chaim continues to point out, and you know, we know that there are not a lot of names for months that happen, right? So the memory of redemption from Egypt is constantly evoked, because if you say in the 7th month, and you're not saying in the month of Tishrei, oh, the 7th month from what? Oh, well, the 7th month from the first month. And what was the first month for? That was redemption from Egypt. And it's going to parallel Shabbat, right? Sunday is Yom Rishon, one day since Shabbat. And then you get further and further away from Shabbat. So in Hebrew, if you're saying the days of the week, you are always in relationship to Shabbat. Well, frankly, until I started studying this to prepare, I didn't really think about this that much, right? That if you say the 7th month or the 8th month or whatever month you're saying, right, that is tying back to redemption. And so that is always with you. It's actually interesting because they take the names for the months from Babylonian exile. And so you kind of think like, hey, what's with that? Because in the Bible, it's Aviv, but we call it Nissan. Aviv means spring. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But, what's that about? And they talk about how using this first month, 7th month, second month, 3rd month, and so forth, is, for them, out of not only Egyptian bondage and redemption, but ultimately Babylonian redemption, right? And they write how it's a smaller redemption, granted, but it's still the redemption from where we were not free to determine our own calendar, free to live in our land and all of that kind of thing. So I just think that was really interesting. That these names were introduced only after that. Actually, if anyone wants a reference, it's Talmud Yerushalmi, Rosh Hashanah 1-2. So there's also ideas of that all of Nissan is holy. All of it is on a higher spiritual plane than the other months of the year. And so Shnei Luchot Habrit is talking about this. And says that we should treat the entire month as if it were on the level of Rosh Chodesh. And so if we were celebrating, right, Rosh Chodesh, so for the tradition of women who get this day off, I don't think we get the full month off, but I think that it's really interesting in terms of raising the entirety of Nissan. So we kind of think, and sorry, I'm going back and forth between Nissan and Aviv, because Nissan is what we refer to it now, even though biblically, again, it was Aviv. So we'll note that we are using Babylonian names still. Some things, I guess, just we never leave behind. But I think it's interesting in terms of, if the whole month is actually to be elevated, that's actually where one of the problems of when to observe Yom HaShoah comes from, because when there was a discussion in Israel of having a Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, there was a lot of pushback of, hey, wait a minute, you can't do it in Nissan. Nissan's a happy month, right? A redemption month. And it happened, so it is in Nissan, but there was really pushback on that. So that to me was interesting also. Anyway, so we also have connection to kings and festivals, right? And so as we just passed the new year for trees, Rosh Hashanah le'ilanot, for Tu B'Shvat, we also have it here. In the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, the 2nd month. So the years of a reign are calculated by when Nissan is, and also for festivals. So we start the festival cycle by listing Passover first. So it starts with Passover. We get to Shavuot, and a long time from now, we get to Sukkot. There's something interesting. I'm going to bring it in as a little bit of an aside, but there's this idea that Rabbeinu Hananel states that we based our calendar on astronomical calculations rather than the sighting of the moon. To me, it's like, wait, what? But the fascinating proof text is that we were in the desert for 40 years when the encampment was totally enveloped by the cloud, God's cloud. And neither the people nor the leaders were able to sight the moon. So therefore, it must have been based on calculation. Interesting, right? Of how of this, excuse me, how all this works. But that being said, I had to say it as an aside. There is an idea in the Jerusalem Talmud that we actually only say the benediction of the new moon on the night following the Sabbath, when one is still in a state of fragrance. So I guess those bisamim from the Havdalah set are still with you. And so it's really interesting to me. It's obviously not how we observe now, but here's how you're supposed to do it. Ready? When reciting this benediction, one is to stand at attention facing the moon and to jump up and down 3 times, reciting the formula. So I don't know if any of you, like, maybe you're familiar with this text, but I don't know if people are jumping, but hey, here's your opportunity. And so I think I have this on a slide. Let me just see if I can get it to it. Oh, no, I thought I was going to. Oh, now I got to get back so you don't look at your slide. Uh-oh, everybody close your eyes. I can't get back to it. Well, anyway, you'll see this for later. I wanted to have this on the slide, but it goes, blessed be your creator, blessed be the one who sanctifies you, just as I jump in your direction without being able to touch you. There we go. Ready? Just as I jump in your direction without being able to touch you, with harmful intent is in parentheses, so those who wish to harm me may jump without achieving their aim. May fear and trepidation overcome all those, since your arm is mighty, may they be struck dumb as stone. Wow, you gotta love the creativity there, right? So, if you want to jump up and down 3 times tomorrow when it's Rosh Chodesh, we'll know what it's about. It's also, the beginning of the year, and we get into a challenge with this of when is the beginning of the year. The women's commentary suggests that both the spring and the fall could be considered new years in agricultural communities. So this is kind of scholars seeing the 2 festivals as a way of combining competing ancient beliefs regarding the beginning of the year. So we could also say, right, that Rosh Hashanah in Tishrei celebrates the creation of the world, whereas Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Hashanah in Nissan celebrates the beginning of our freedom, right? We have a different way of beginning again. There are many different blessings in terms of how one could bless the new moon. They can be more simple. They could be more full. So one of them is in the West, meaning in Israel. They used to pronounce the following benediction: "Blessed be God who renews the moon." Simple, right? In the diaspora, they said, "Blessed be God who," and I'm changing, it was he, but God, "who with God's words has created the heavens, and with the breath of God's mouth all their hosts, which God gave order and time that they should not change, that they should not change God's command. They rejoice and are happy in doing the will of their creator." And it goes on. It's a much longer blessing, which I think opens us up to how we can bless Nissan. So now this slide I meant not to show you before. The sages say all kinds of things happen on that very first day of Nissan. So there were 10 crowns. So we might think of other 10s in the Torah. We might think of other crowns for that matter. And so we see, right? It was the first day of the week, the first day the princes brought their offerings, the first day the Aaronic, I can't even pronounce it, Aaron's priesthood was put into effect, the first day of the temple sacrifices, the first time a fire descended from heaven onto the altar, the first time the sacred foods were eating in the tabernacle, the first time divine presence rested amidst the people, the first day the priests conferred the priestly blessing, the first time it was forbidden to sacrifice to God on ad hoc calendar altars, and finally it was the first month of the new year. So there's a lot that is happening right then. And in our past, by the way, there were 2 other things. So in Genesis, it's specifically on the first day of the first month in the story of Noah that the flood waters God sent to cleanse the earth begins to dry up. So that's a new beginning there. And God had told Moses to set up the tabernacle in the wilderness with all its furnishings on the first day of the first month, Exodus 40. So So we have a lot that is happening here. I want to just touch Haftarah briefly because like that's just who I am. And so normally the Haftarah for Rosh Chodesh for the new month is Isaiah 66, mentions how in the Messianic era, every Shabbat, every Rosh Chodesh, everyone will come to the temple to worship God. But this Haftarah is different. So this one for a Rosh Chodesh, a new month, is specifically Rosh HaChodesh. The Ha is but the month, right? That this is the month because it's starting all that we just talked about, right? So Ezekiel, the full text for Haftarah for tomorrow is this, and again, it's an alternate text because it's Rosh HaChodesh. But I just wanted to show you two verses within it, right? I'll just do English. Thus said the sovereign God on the first day of the first month, hence the connection. You shall take a bull of the herd without blemish, and you shall cleanse the sanctuary. The priest shall take some of the blood of the purgation offering and apply it to the doorposts of the temple. Sounds familiar? To four corners of the ledge of the altar and to the doorposts of the gate of the inner court. And then within the Haftarah, it goes on to on the 14th offer the Passover offering. So there's more connection there. But in terms of this specific connection to the first day of the first month, it's a great connection, Haftarah wise, right? Because it is directly connected to that. So there are three names for this month. I've already mentioned them all. So one of the things that is interesting in terms of the head being the head of kind of the 12 months. So if we look at the Hebrew, I'm sorry, I didn't put it right here, but Chodesh HaAviv, right? Aleph Vet Yud Vet is father of 12. Av, Yud is 10, Vet is 2, father of 12. So on the one hand, father of 12 months. But the other thing that happens here is that there is a text for the first 12 days of the month. In terms of, I'm going to just actually go forward a bit and then go back a bit. Oh, not that far. That didn't work at all. No, I'm not. Sorry. Did it again. So there is a text that says that every day of the first 12 days of Nissan, it's a custom to read the portions about the 12 tribal princes who brought offerings and gifts to the holy sanctuary. So when he said it's father of the 12 months, we're reading it, but it also, our tradition has taken it so that it is the father of 12 tribes, and there is a blessing that goes with that. So it starts this way, and I thought I put it on the slide, but I'm feeling like I didn't, so forgive me. May it be your will, Adonai my God and God of my ancestors, that you should illuminate today with your great kindness on the holy souls that are renewed like birds, who chirp and praise and beseech on behalf of the holy nation Israel. Master of the world, bring in and elevate these holy birds to a holy place about which it is said, no eye has ever seen beside you, God. And it goes on, that's just part of it. It's from Open to Doors, one place you can find it. That last text is based in Isaiah. But it's interesting, right? Now we have Rosh HaChodesh, right? We have the month, right? But at the same time, we have also within the month, it's supposed to be a month fully of celebration. It is supposed to be, it is a month where you could have special readings for all of the first 12 days, including this spring-like prayer. And it is also going to be a month where, for a lot of us anyway, we're going to see the first signs of spring. So Aviv again means spring, but there is a blessing on seeing the first blossoming trees, which I think is really powerful, right? So I'm in New York, a little north of New York City, and so to be able to say this blessing, right? I'll do English for a moment, but blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign of the universe, who did not leave anything lacking in the universe and created goodly creatures and beautiful trees to give pleasure, is a beautiful blessing. And there's flexibility. It doesn't have to be within Nissan. It could be a little bit before, I guess, if you're in an early spring, or if you live elsewhere than the Northeast. But it also could be even a little bit later. So there's a lot of bit of flexibility. So given you've heard me talk at you for so long, I am going to just actually do one last thing and do a little summary, and then let us see if we can get some questions and comments in. So why is Nissan or Aviv the first month? My suggestion is it was when we were redeemed from Egypt. So from then on, we anchored time in freedom, which I just think is just beautiful. The first buds on the tree appear, and the earth is reborn. It launches a king's reign and begins the festival cycle. The first 12 days, remember the gifts of the tribes, unique in their sameness, right? If you recall, every tribe, that would be what would be read. Every tribe brought the same exact thing, but unique in their sameness is how I chose to word that, is an invitation to escape our own narrow places. So it's really important, right? We remember that Mitzrayim means Egypt, but it also means our narrow places. And I just want to point out just real quick, right, just like Kitafayim, shoulders is that ayin, that paired thing. Mitzrayim is that pair. So it's kind of like when you're squeezed both sides. I just said to someone that I don't think I'm in the sandwich generation, but I think that I am in the, I just lost a word. That's embarrassing. That I'm in the, gosh, right now, I shouldn't have just spoke off the cuff, that I'm in the generation of the crushed sandwich, whatever you call it. Someone can write it in the chat, right? Feeling the crushedness from both sides coming. So here we are, an invitation to escape our own narrow places. It's for a time for imagining a new world. And finally, just as it happened in this special Torah portion, it's a time for pausing from the story we are living in order to glimpse into the future. So with that, I will invite Mara, if you want to lead us through, that would be great. We have about 5 minutes.
Rob is saying that you have a wonderful Haftorah book, which he recommends, and we'll make sure to include a link to that in the follow-up. There's been a lot of conversation about, obviously, the names of the months and also connection to where we are in the season. We have 5 minutes left, and rather than me attempt to give voice to others, I think we have time for someone to raise their hand if they have a quick question. And so if you want to use your Zoom function to do so, you are welcome. And while we're waiting for folks to raise their hand, Rabbi, just a reminder that when we close, I like to ask our Torah study leaders to leave us with a Shabbat blessing. So as we wait for folks to come forward, you can think through that.
I am with you. Okay. Any questions, comments?
We have some general questions that are not so related to the text, but why not? Do you have any Haggadot recommendations that would be good for children? I'm going to add a link to the chat because we have one from Kveller, but you can also share.
Right.
What do you...
I think that, there are a lot of online resources that you can make it and put in video. So if you use technology, right, I would look at that. I mean, PJ Library has good stuff, Haggadot.com, and Jew Belong. I mean, Jew Belong isn't so much for kids, but you can pull something from that, and there's a free download for that. I think there's so much out there now. It's a matter of kind of how much you want to create, but some of them will have like a play in them, or you can create your own play of, it's the final night, and what would you pack, or how do you feel about leaving, because it's exciting, and it's freedom, and it's new, and yet because it's new, it's scary, right? So I would make it as much your own as you can.
Amazing. Adding one resource to the chat.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to, I'm looking away from everyone. I apologize. I just wanted to save the chat, which isn't really working. So
we have,
there it is.
okay. And we'll also make sure to include your book in the follow-up, as I mentioned. Rabbi, will you share some closing thoughts with us, and maybe an intention as we enter Shabbat?
Absolutely. So my one of my closing thoughts is, I don't like to be such a lecturer, but I wanted to bring forward just so many, I hope you thought, interesting texts. So my closing thought is that I feel that I and people I am interacting with online and in person are looking for some new beginnings. And I think that we are recognizing when we have control and we don't. And so a closing thought is saying a blessing, as simple as it was, around a new bud is really powerful, and it kind of I don't know, helps us find some amount of balance and beauty in the world. And so I invite you to do, whether you use the traditional blessing or your own, to be able to find the blessings that are surrounding us. My final blessing to you, I will take in a slightly different direction, though we didn't read the end of Exodus because we did a different portion of the special portion. When we end a book of Torah, we say Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Hazek. May we go from strength to strength. And I think that my prayer is that you find your inner strength, perhaps a strength you didn't realize that you had, or that you haven't developed so much. May you find the strength from those around you, whether they're in your immediate circle or circles further out. And let us all know that together we are always stronger. Shabbat shalom.
Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Thank you all for being here. Shabbat shalom.
Thank you, everyone.